Faraj, I gotta say, like I have never seen a dental practice like this before. It is so comfortable, it is so welcoming, so inviting. Just where do we start? Can we talk a little bit about your vision? Like, how did this come to you?
Absolutely. So thank you. And I mean, thank you for saying that, but also thank you for being a part of creating this. Because this was it wasn't me, right? It was a team effort of a lot of different people that were involved in making it happen. And to me, this is just a location to be able to practice dentistry the way that I enjoy practicing dentistry. That's really in its most like simple form, the vision behind this, which is I have a certain way of enjoying doing dentistry, and I wanted to create an environment which represents that and allows us to do it at that level, where we do things in a certain way where patients get a certain experience. We utilize certain technologies to be able to communicate to a certain level and to be able to provide a certain quality of care. And every element of this clinic really just fell back to that. What are we doing for the patient experience? What are we doing for what they can see? What are we doing for what they can hear, for what they can smell? And then, of course, how can we then fit into that, the dentistry that we do?
It's a huge part of, patient experience is absolutely everything. This is what it's all about. Let's talk about the name itself. It's such a bold statement. Transcend dentistry.
Yeah. Specialized dentistry.
Specialized. My apologies. Of course. Let's get into that vision. Like I think that's kind of, if I think I know where your head was at with coming up with that name. That's what you're going for. You're transcending.
Sure. Let me ask you, what do you like when you hear transcend? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means taking what's established to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, when I hear the word transcend, and the reason we use the word transcend for our name is transcend means to go beyond.
Yes.
To go beyond what is ordinary, right? Or to go beyond what is the norm. And that's exactly what we wanted to create, which is to think outside of the box, be able to go beyond what is considered to be the standard of care, right? We all talk about the standard of care, and obviously it's very important, but the standard of care is not the cap, right? That's the minimum. It's called the minimum standard of care. And then how far up you can go is up to you, right? You can go as far as you want, and as long as you don't fall below the minimum standard of care, then you're good. But there's no cap as to where you can go. So Transcend is our way of kind of committing on a daily basis to transcending not necessarily others around us, but transcending ourselves.
Yes.
Transcending what we did the day before, transcending how we did dentistry the day before, the week before, the month before, and just continuing to be able to progress and take things to the next level, whether it be with how we create the experience, whether it be the technology, the outcomes, the materials. It's a never-ending game of trying to be better.
And it's funny because I'm looking right in the background here. You have your logo, and about a foot above your head it says uncompromising quality.
Yeah, that's
so I kept like glancing up, and that kind of I think summarizes it as well, right? Yeah. So the patient experience, like the patient experience, is uncompromised too. Like everything about what you're doing, the workflow, the feel, the touches, the technology is. I would argue that you would find, not too many places in downtown Vancouver with this kind of experience.
Yeah, I think that the technology itself. So here we are taking a prosthodontist who has such a broad, like a vast knowledge and skill set, and you're really kind of marrying that with some of the best technology. And as you say, we kind of built this together. So. I have a very insider look at the technology that you put into this practice. So talk us a little bit about the technology and why you've decided to go down this road. Like it seems to me, again, going down that transcend theme where it's like, it seems to me like to have the patient experience that you want really sort of helps indicate the type of technology and equipment that you've invested in.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it ties back to the uncompromising quality, because uncompromising quality, at the end of the day, if we were to like put it under one umbrella, it's uncompromising quality when it comes to the care that we provide patients, right? So it's care, that's the key word. Care is not just dentistry. That's a huge part of it. We're in a dental office, right? So a huge part of it is that our margins fit and that the materials we use are the right materials and that we do things the right way. But care doesn't just stop with the dental technical part of things, right? There's also the care in communication. There's the care in experience. And then technology to me is a way to augment that and just be able to do it at that level. So if we're aiming for uncompromising care, to me it's a no-brainer that we have to implement technology in a way that's going to assist us to do that, whether it's enhancing our communication with patients, which obviously a lot of our technology is designed specifically for that purpose, being able to explain things in a way that is visual, where patients are able to understand them in a much more down-to-earth, understandable manner, but then also being able to do things more predictably. Because that's one thing I think about quite a lot. It's not only, you can have a great day and do really great quality work, but the key is to be able to do it consistently and predictably day after day, whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, whether I've had a long night or lots of sleep. I should be able to provide consistent outcomes every step of the way, and that's to me where technology plays a huge role. It creates a whole other level of predictability, because it's no longer just what I'm thinking on the spot when I'm making a decision. There's so much of it that's involved in pre-planning, like we said, communicating with patients, being able to get other parties involved, whether they be referring dentists, other specialists, labs, and just having everyone on that same level of communication to ultimately be able to provide predictable outcomes time and time again. So, and this is a brand new office. It's something where we're aiming to be, like at a premium level of care. So implementing a certain level of technology, again, just made a lot of sense in the sense of being able to do things with that predictability, being able to enhance our communication with patients, and then also setting ourselves for a long journey ahead, right? Where we're setting ourselves up with a really strong foundation, where we're not left behind, because technology is going to change in the next couple of years, just like it has forever. Mm-hmm. And if we've set up a certain foundation, which we've spent a lot of time talking about, we're able to augment to that and add to that, and then stay up to pace with the changes that are happening to make sure that we're always being able to provide that uncompromising quality of care.
And this day and age, it's a really interesting time, because there's some clinicians out there that just see the dollar signs when it comes to buying that piece of equipment, when really it could, help them transcend what they're doing as well, right? So to look at this as your investment in your future, opposed to, I mean, it's hard staring down at the debt, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because
I think I can speak on clinicians' behalf when they're looking at buying an expensive piece of equipment. You're looking at going, is this a smart buying decision right now? Is this going to I need to make sure I don't go bankrupt trying to buy this piece of equipment. So I think that from a pragmatic perspective, I've sort of been beside you. I've been beside plenty of clinicians who are like, man, oh man, of course I want this thing. I know it's the best thing for my practice, but I need to make sure that I'm going to have the skill set and the people and the space to put this into, because I think that at the end of the day, it's melding those two, the practical with the ideal.
I mean, we just had that conversation, was it last week? It's not only the equipment, of course, but obviously the knowledge is more than important than the equipment.
Well, do you have the capability to provide
right.
the care and the treatment plan like you talked about?
Yeah. Right. And what your philosophy is, there's no right or wrong philosophy. So the way that we're doing things isn't necessarily the right way of doing things. It's just that I know that this is how we want to do things.
Yeah.
And now my job is to try to build everything around that philosophy. And that's maybe where I feel a lot of people face challenges, which is they aren't consistent to their vision, and then they end up losing the vision, right? The vision is just something that was written down on maybe a business plan somewhere. But now when you're actually in your day-to-day operation, did you follow what that vision was? And to me, that's how I made all of my purchasing decisions. Right? We had a very specific vision for what we wanted to create. And then the question that I would always ask myself isn't, do I like this? Or do I think this is cool? It was more, does this piece of equipment, does this piece of technology, does this design element that we're integrating, does it somehow build towards accomplishing this vision? And if the answer was yes, then it would be seriously considered. If the answer was no, then it's out of the picture because it's not adding purpose to what we're trying to do. So I think that's a part of it too, because someone's vision might be to be able to, provide dentistry at scale to people who need it in an affordable way, and that's a very honorable, very important, very needed vision. They're going to choose how they purchase and set up their clinic very differently than someone else who's doing it in a very different way. So I think that's also a part of it. It's understanding what the goal is and then building everything around that.
Building around your identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. So, you can see everything like in terms of the website, the branding, what you're doing on social media. It all kind of revolves around that vision.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a hard thing to figure out.
You know what I love about coming here? There isn't a typical reception desk.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how did you come up with that?
Yeah, so our vision was to be able to create uncompromising quality, like we said, when it comes to every facet of what is experienced at our clinic. And a lot of that, like we said, involves the dentistry, but then we also spent a lot of time thinking about the patient experience.
Right.
So we, as a clinic, we're prosthodontists and periodontists. We work with a lot of referring dentists that trust us with the care of their patients, but then we also have a lot of patients that come to see us from all across the province, all across the country, and patients that come from abroad. And they come to see us specifically for this reason, that they want to experience the way that we do specialized dentistry, or the way that we do prosthodontics and periodontics. And when we implemented our design elements, like the reception you mentioned, I was always asking myself, how does this add value or add to the experience of someone walking into the practice? And once you think about it, you realize that a traditional reception doesn't do any of that in a lot of ways, right? You're making phone calls that are irrelevant to the person that just walked in.
Right.
Probably distracting to the person that walked in. Sometimes scary to the person that walked in, right? Where you're talking to insurance or talking to another patient about a $20,000 treatment plan or whatever it is. They're listening, right? If you walk in somewhere and someone's speaking on the phone, you're probably going to listen to what they're saying. So that's number one. Number two, visually, they're seeing a lot of things that are unnecessary, right? They don't need to see a printer. They don't need to see the phones. They don't need to see the monitors. These are all things that help us do our role, but they add zero value to the experience of the person that's now visiting the space. So for us, we have a small reception area because a part of our philosophy is that no one should wait. So we don't really have a waiting room. The goal is for every person to walk in, be greeted, and then be taken into their treatment center, which is what we call these areas. This is the orchid room, by the way.
The orchid room.
The orchid room. And so they're greeted by a host or a hostess, and then they're taken to the treatment center where they meet the treatment coordinator or the dental assistant, and then their journey starts. They never hear phone calls. They never talk to a receptionist. We don't have a reception area. What we do have is an operations room, and that operations room is where all of the traditional reception stuff happens. Phone calls to patients, booking patients, scheduling patients, collecting payments, dealing with insurance, whatever it is, that all happens through the operations room, which is...
So is that done online? So like if I come in, so first of all, like it's amazing. Whenever I walk in and I see that, what I feel as a patient, well, if I'm like I put myself in the mindset of a patient walking in here, I feel it's all about me, right? There's no, like you said, there's no distractions, there's no other periphery sort of. I don't like using the term spa. I don't think spa does it justice, right? I think it's a different experience, like you said. So for me, it's and choose to answer this if you want to, but I'm always curious. Okay, well, how do you? Is it all like, does a patient book online? Is it all online forms? Is it
so that's a great question. We do offer a lot of that stuff online. It's not I wouldn't say it's the majority of what we do. A lot of the majority of what we do is still done traditionally through the phone. Someone submits a form on our website.
Right.
and then we contact them via phone or email. But that's all done again through our operations room, which is hidden, right? It's not something that is front facing. That's more back end operations stuff. To your point, I'm really happy you said that, because that was a big part of it too. Where our goal is for each person to feel like they're the only ones in the practice.
Yeah.
And we've had some really great comments that make me happy, because you guys know what it's like in a dental office. It can get crazy.
Noisy.
People running around, and it happens to us too.
Control chaos.
We're busy, right? So there's chaos, and we'd be in the middle of chaos where, we have multiple patients, we're turning over rooms, we're doing what needs to be done, and we'd have patients come in and they'd comment and say, "Oh, am I the only person you guys are seeing today? Are you what's going on? It feels so quiet," and that to me is showing that we succeeded to establish that. Because if only they knew, right? If only they knew all of the chaos that was happening in the background.
Sure, yeah. There's still chaos
To
happening.
them, what they see, what they experience is exactly what we've planned for them to see and experience, which should be relaxing.
Mission accomplished. Really well done.
Now, did you take inspiration for this vision, this design, or is it just kind of an amalgamation of everything that you see?
I think it's an amalgamation of a lot of things. I was definitely inspired by a lot of the stuff that I saw in Dubai, because that's where I did 6 years of dental schooling. And Dubai is very well known for its hospitality and its luxury and that sort of thing, especially when it comes to hotels or that. So I took some elements of that I really enjoyed and don't see very often here. I also implemented a lot of things or avoided implementing a lot of things that I didn't like. So one of the things that still irritates me is the fact that I feel like quality of care, and I'm not talking about dentistry, I'm not even talking about healthcare, I'm just talking about quality of service, let's say.
Sure.
Is just on the decline for many years, unfortunately.
100%.
And it's, to me, I've always been the type where I don't like to complain and do nothing about it. So to me, the reason it's getting worse and worse year after year is because we allow for it to, as a society, as a community, right? We accept the bare minimum. And that was a huge motivation for me to be able to create this, which is, we don't need to accept the bare minimum. The bare minimum is the minimum. So back to what we were saying, the minimum standard of care is the minimum standard of care. There's no reason to stop there, right? You can definitely exceed that. And that's kind of what we wanted to also bring back, and for people as well, and for the community to, we control that, right? If we demand from ourselves, number one, and then from others, a certain quality, a certain standard, then that's a service to our community, that's a service to our society, because that automatically raises our standards and it raises the quality of services, it raises these things. Whereas when we do the opposite, it's a detriment to our community, because then it allows us to start to accept lower standards.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it has still a lot to do with maybe business in North America looking at the people walking through their door, their employees, their supplies, their etc. as a number. And it kind of takes away from the actual purpose, is that it's service, it's creating a quality product. Like the Apple iPhone, if you start to compromise the quality of what you're putting in front of your customer, I think that there'd be a correlation to see a decline in your business. And that goes for looking at your employees as a number, as an overhead too. I think if we take care of our teams and take care of our customers, you have a winning business.
100%.
Yeah.
And your point's an important one, which is looking at things from a numbers perspective. That's very short-sighted, I think, unless that's your business model. So again,
That's what I was going to say. It goes back to what your goals and your intentions are.
Exactly.
If you're here to run the practice by numbers,
then so be it, right? And that's necessary. Again, back to, there's no right or wrong. If everyone was doing things the way we were doing things, we would not be in a good place.
Sure.
And if no one was doing things the way that we're doing things, then we would not be in a good place. Like, you have to have a balance of different things. But this is where I felt like there was a gap, right? There wasn't as much as maybe I thought there should be accessibility to places where the focus really was quality. And the focus wasn't necessarily to do things faster or to do things cheaper, but we really are going to do everything we humanly possibly can to do things to the best of our capability each time, right? With everything that's involved.
And I like how you put everything in the practice. You from a diagnostic perspective too, where you do have the tools to do a CBCT. You can take that 3D shot and say, you know what, let's take a look at that, right? You do, and not to get too in depth on the technological side, but you do have really kind of all the tools here in-house to do everything you want to do, which again is like, I love that myself. If I was to be practicing dentistry, I'd want, my goal would be have everything at my fingertips within my practice.
Yeah, it's the only way for us to be able to do what we do, like 100%, because again, our model is different. We have patients that come from, like, we just had a patient last week come from New York, and they spend a few days here. So we have to have the ability to be able to provide all the diagnostics, all the treatment planning, and then actually execute on treatment. That's where virtual consults are huge for us.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Someone coming in from across the country or from another country, they don't want to come in to just find out that they don't like you. Right? They want to actually have met you and feel comfortable and get an idea of what the plan is. And of course, things are susceptible to change once they actually sit at a chair and we do a thorough examination. Yeah. But it's usually
you're still doing quite a few consults
for anyone out of town. We offer them.
I think you're.
No one says that. No one from out of town will ever say no to a virtual consult. It might potentially save them a trip. Right?
I think your line of dentistry is perfectly suited to do virtual consults. Like, perfectly suited for that. So that's interesting. So somebody comes here from New York. So do you have like a full, like, this is where you should stay, these are the activities you should do while you're here?
We do.
Like a tourist type package? Oh, that's so smart.
We have a concierge service. So we can, like, we're obviously located right central downtown. A lot of our people coming from out of town will stay at like the Hotel Vancouver or at the Rosewood. And we have partnerships with them in terms of like being able to connect them with the right people, and they can help them with any travel issues. Or
if you're looking for if you're looking for a good excuse to come to Vancouver,
that's right.
New smile, come to Vancouver. It's really nice out now.
It's a brilliant workflow in my mind when you're talking to patients abroad. I just love how it all sort of ties in together. And it's interesting that you mentioned that some of the waiting room area, I don't like calling it a waiting room, it's more like a reception, living room area.
Receptacle.
It was inspired by your trips to Dubai, because I was going to ask if it was European inspired, but I mean, Dubai makes sense too, so okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I know that when I first started in dental, they talk about some of the differences in dentistry here versus Europe. I've never been to Dubai, so I have no reference point.
We got to go, I guess. Yeah. We'll tag along.
But I've been to Germany, right? So we've got some German equipment in here. So I'm like, for me, my reference point is, okay, here we go. I can see there's some German inspiration in here where I'm like, hey, it's a different way of doing dentistry on some level in Germany than it is here. In my opinion, there's a lot that's great about German dentistry, the way they do things. So it's nice to see that there's inspirations on a couple levels here.
Absolutely, yeah. And honestly, it's all about like doing dentistry the way I enjoy doing it. Like that to me was the real focus. I tried a lot of different styles of dentistry. I tried to be quicker than I normally am. I tried to be slower than I normally am. I tried to do things and once you go through that trial and error, you really find out like these are the days that I enjoy. These are the days when I know that tomorrow I'm going to spend my time doing this. I'm looking forward to it. And there are days where if you're doing things a certain way, you at the end of the day feel like, why am I even doing this? Right? So my goal from this for me on a personal level was to minimize the number of days where I feel like, why am I even doing this? And to maximize the number of days where it's like, this is what I enjoy doing. And to me, what I enjoy doing is like spending the time, spending the letting my OCD loose and just like picking apart the details and just doing it the best I possibly can. So even like choosing equipment and chairs, and like it had to fit into our design. It had to fit into the technological, workflows that we were trying to create. We ended up with these Sirona chairs, which have been great. They set us up for the future, right? Because we're going to be good with these chairs for a very long time. Right? We're not going to
well engineered.
It's well engineered. They've got everything integrated into them. It keeps our setup super clean, right? We don't need an implant motor. We don't need any other. Everything's built into the chair itself. It talks to the software. Personalized care, right? That's a big part of what we do with our patients. So, for example, one of the things I love about these chairs is it doesn't just remember you as the provider, but it actually remembers your patient.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
Right? So if my patient is comfortable with a certain neck position, and we spend the 2 minutes trying to get it perfect for them, when they come in 2 weeks later, it remembers who that patient is, you press a button and it goes back to that exact same position.
Amazing.
Tiny details, right? But those tiny details add up.
Does their name come up on the screen?
Their name does come up.
So when they sit in the chair, they see their name come up on the screen, and it goes into the position they like. I mean, talk about a really customized experience for the patient.
Or the massage feature.
What?
This is where I spend a lot of my free time.
Free massage?
Stress relief.
Yeah. Does it remember your position though?
It does, yeah. And it's not just a regular massage feature. It's a massage feature that is meant to it pulsates at the ideal heart rate for when you're in the most relaxed state.
Gotcha.
So it kind of prompts you to
chill
control your breathing, bring down your heart rate, and get into that relaxed phase. So it's again details, but details add up into being able to create something exceptional.
So, what are you doing? What are you doing now to ensure that you're continuing to transcend? What are you like? What practices? What is it? Education? What are you doing to? And what's the latest and greatest? Like, what do you?
You can give us one or two things because we could talk about this for a while.
Yeah, this is kind of a separate session, but
to me, that's what I love the most about being an educator and teaching and speaking and doing all these different things. Is it's a way to kind of force myself to always be up to date. Right? If I give a presentation this month, if I do it again in 6 months, I'm going to have to do a literature review and make sure that I'm on top of the most recent evidence. So that's a big part of it. It's making sure that we try to implement the best practices of today. And the truth of it is, for some things, they don't change. Like the standard of care for certain things hasn't changed for 20, 30 years, but there are things that change on a regular basis. Like 3D printing is an example. Which materials you can or cannot use is an example. You have to be on top of these things. If you just delve into it once and then you're set in your ways for years and years to go, you're probably now outdated and you're probably not actually at the level that you can be. So that to me is a big part of it. It's constantly being up to date. We follow evidence-based dentistry, so everything we do is evidence-based, and we make sure that it is evidence-based. And then right now, my focus really is on building out our team, and that's something that we've been very lucky with. We have a really outstanding team, but early phases, we're 4 months into this practice. That's really what's taking up a lot of my focus, which is how do we take our entire team up to another level? How do we all develop together? How do we all have the same vision, and how do we all work towards that vision? So that's been a lot of things. We spend a lot of time doing workshops together.
Nice. Storytelling
workshops, communication workshops, empathy workshops.
Oh, that's great.
Right? So,
is this programs that are based with a dental company per se, or
we do them in-house.
Okay.
Yeah, we do
I see.
them in-house. So because I'm involved in education and that sort of thing, and we have other team members here that have a background in different soft skills and leadership and business development and that sort of thing. So we tailor Transcend workshops, and we do at least once a month, where once a month we'll book a half day and the entire team will just have a workshop on something outside of clinical dentistry.
Yeah.
Like our most recent one was really interesting, which is storytelling. And it's really a game-changing thing once your team just shifts our perspective as to how to communicate with patients.
Yeah.
Right? We connect so much with stories, and if we're able to share stories as opposed to just sharing
facts,
1, 2, 3, 4,
sure. Yeah.
it makes a huge difference as to how patients perceive things and how they retain things and how they understand things.
So do you guys get into story structure?
Yeah, we get into story structure. We get into understanding each other better, because that's a big part of it too. Like when my team really understands me and they understand my philosophy of care, and they understand my background and they understand what I care about and they understand my education. Like when they understand me, they're going to be able to communicate that to patients so much more effectively than I ever could.
Sure.
Right? And same for me. If I understand them and their stories, I'm going to be able to hand patients over to them in a way that builds a lot more rapport and trust than if I was to just say, here's X person and, they're our assistant and they're going to be taking care of you.
Also, the characteristic types of your patients, that's an important piece too.
Yeah, like personality traits.
Personality traits. Yeah. That's another one that you guys should get into.
Yeah.
There's the one where you can, I'll send you the link, but there's 16 different personality types.
ENFT.
That's right. Yeah. It's really interesting, and it gives you full breakdown.
Yeah.
But like knowing your patients as they're coming in too, if you're, that white glove service, it's not about how you're portraying or seeing yourselves. It's also the faces looking up at you as well, right?
Yeah.
So with your study club, do you have hands-on courses that happen here? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's
absolutely. So
interesting as well.
We do our hands-on programs in different venues. Sometimes we do them here. Not this past weekend, the weekend before, we did a hands-on photography course,
right,
where we did it all here. Everyone got to take photographs using our setup and using their cameras, using their setups. So we do a lot of things here. We have a mentorship program where members of our study club can bring in a patient and a certain procedure that they want to conduct under supervision, and then we treatment plan it together. We discuss it in advance, and then the patient comes in and they actually get to go through treatment. So whether that be for a full mouth reconstruction, whether it be for implants, whether it be for veneers, whatever it is they want to introduce into this educational setting. And then for some courses, we do them in neighboring venues. Like we have an kind of like a lecture hall up in the building here, so we do some in the building. Sometimes we rent out venues in hotels and we do them there, but it just depends on the course. But we have our hands-on workshops. We have like an anterior composite workshop coming up. We have a gum grafting workshop coming up. We have a porcelain veneers workshop coming up.
Wow.
And then of course we have our monthly sessions, but those are all online. So we do those monthly sessions online to be able to accommodate the number of members that we have.
Which is, you guys got it.
It's
the BC
Dental Study Club.
Yeah, so I was going to say, where if somebody's interested, where do they go and find out?
bcdentalstudyclub.ca.
Okay.
And we have over 1,000 members.
Wow.
And the only way to accommodate that is we have monthly sessions done online, done through Zoom. The beauty of it is, to me, is I don't get to decide anything. We run polls.
Yeah.
Right? We run polls, and then the members decide what they want to see, and then it's our job to make that happen. So one time they chose that they would like to discuss a certain topic related to endo. Last time I did endo was in dental school,
Right.
So I'm not going to talk about anything related to
Right.
endo.
Yeah.
Right. So we brought in one of the most well-known, most respected endodontists or educators in Canada, and he was kind enough to share with our group an hour session on the topic that they were interested in. So that's kind of how we tailor it, and we do those monthly sessions online. But then we also run polls for what kind of hands-on workshops do you want to see here in BC? What do you feel is lacking when it comes to continuing education? And then based on the outcomes, we then, if it's something that I'm able to do, then perfect. If it's something that one of my colleagues is able to do, then perfect. If it's something that none of us are too familiar with, then we find speakers. So our anterior composite workshop is a speaker from Brazil. He's world class when it comes to anterior bonding and that sort of thing. So he's going to come in and conduct that workshop for us.
And that's where all the best ceramists are too, the Brazilian.
They have great ceramists.
Yeah.
They have great aesthetics in general, whether it's composite bonding, the dentists or ceramists.
That's interesting. And what a great environment too. If you're I want to start getting into more cosmetic, to know that you have this group that you can bring your own case and say, you know what, I kind of need a team around me for my first case so I can feel comfortable doing this.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, creating that environment is really important to me, and like the study club and what we do, it's building that community where it's, you know, you can come in, you're going to find support, we're going to learn together. If we don't know something, we'll find out how to find it out together.
Yeah.
And be able to just have that collaborative thing. And each time we do something, I learn just as much as I'm sure anyone else does. It's very collaborative, because there may be certain things that I do a lot of, but there's certainly certain things that someone else does a lot of, and having that place where we can share openly is, I think, what's allowed us to be really successful. It's truly like a no judgment, no egos.
Yeah,
we're just here to support each other. We're just here to learn together, and we're just here to ultimately serve our community in the dental world, but then at a greater scale to our patients.
The patient's benefit. I was going to say, like, setting aside the ego and being okay to go, and maybe you're not the best at something, but maybe the conversation or the topic, you might be one of the best in the room, and why not share that? I say, like, why keep those things in?
And we've been lucky enough to pop into one or two, and it's you're bang on. That is the energy, where it's a very supportive, very high energy supportive environment. So yeah, it's a great vibe.
We missed the last dinner, the last outing.
That was a global.
We missed out. Next one.
Yeah.
Faraj, this has been great. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Well, we got to the end of your day, so thank you so much for hopping on with us.
No, this was fun. Anytime, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you have your own studio here now.
Yeah.
So,
are you going to keep the cameras here?
Well, just keep it here in the orchid room.
Yeah.
Anything to close with? Like, top of mind? What's exciting? Anything you want to give a shout out to anybody, or?
Shout out to you guys for doing this.
Awesome.
And again, like for me personally, my focus right now is this practice, and obviously this study club. This practice really was built through the study club for me. Like, the study club encouraged me to be able to do this because, I did dentistry a certain way, and I didn't know if this was something that was common or uncommon. And then once we started the study club and I started talking to a lot of colleagues, I realized that it's a common theme that a lot of people want to be able to have this sort of atmosphere, this sort of environment. So a big part of what we do here is to support our study club community, to support our referring dentists, to be able to serve their patients in the way that they want us to be able to serve them. But to me, again, the shout outs go to everyone that was involved in creating this, because it really was a tremendous team effort, whether it's Tyler, Henry Shine team, Amir and the seasons contracting team, like so many different people, our IT team, our AV team, our staff, like so many different people that were involved in creating this. And what's exciting to me is that it's just the beginning. Like, there's so much to build off of this foundation, and it's just an exciting time.
I feel like we need like champagne right now, like a cheers. Awesome.
And it was just to quickly touch on that, like any practice build, it's not without its hiccups, and it was great to see that when we did sort of come across something unforeseen, that the way that the team really kind of pulled together, and we all kind of huddled, and it was like, how are we gonna navigate this bump? And it was really cool because it's kind of it's a reflection of dentistry, right? Whereas something unforeseen comes up, that's okay. Now how you come together, and how do you navigate this and get around it, which was cool because it was it was a big endeavor, and I'm super pumped that I was able to be part of it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And your points, I think, are a really important point, and maybe worth spending just a minute on, which is, to me, that was a huge learning experience from doing this. That's the value of having a good team. The value of having a good team is not that you won't run into problems. Now, hopefully, with a good team, you'll run into less problems.
Right, sure.
But you probably will run into into problems, and the real difference between having a good team versus not is how you overcome those problems. And that's something that I learned through this project, because again, like you said, we ran into hurdles, but it was night and day between how it could have went and how it actually went, in terms of being able to address them have the support, feeling like people that you're working with had your back and were looking out for your best interest, and having that sort of open dialogue and transparent collaboration, I think was a big part of it. So whenever people ask me now, like, what's important to look for when you're looking to build out a project like this and to build out your team, that's really what I tell them. It's don't look into don't be tunnel visioned. Look at it from a much bigger picture, and the bigger picture really is who are the people there supporting you, because that's what'll matter when things happen, and unfortunately things will happen.
They will happen.
Will happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the same for me as well. When we did this project, and as I develop at getting better at doing these projects, it's the same thing where it's like I need to know that I'm working with a team that I can trust and that the communication's happening, so that I can give you the communication that I need. So if I need to talk to Amir, if I need to talk to Steve, anyone on the team, where I'm like, guys, give me the information, and they're always like, Amir was amazing at it, which is why, like, obviously I prefer working with him because we're friends. And number two, he hits it out of the park every time, and he always communicates with me directly. Here's what's happening. Here's what you need to know. Here's what your client needs to know. Usually he'll just bypass me and go straight to you now, but that's just part of the evolution of working together. I'm like, just call Faraj and tell him. Just tell him directly. But like you said, that the trust for me, so that I can make sure that you can trust me, you can trust the team, you can trust all of us, so that the communication is a huge part of it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
There we are.
That's all I have.
Let's go enjoy the sun.
For
We can still see some.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, great.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, we'll do it again with more updates.
You got to come out our way now next time.
Sure. Yeah. Where's that again?
Langley and the Boonies. Just kidding. We'll be here in the Orchid Room.